Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about concealers, high-end concealers to be exact. I have a video telling you my 5 best and 5 worst of high-end concealers. I've gotten the idea of doing concealer videos from Kelsey Brianna J. She does an incredible job doing concealer battles on her channel. I wait for them patiently every year, and she does the most current concealer battles, and she dukes it out among the concealers with a very thorough wear test. She does a great job. I recommend going to her channel and subscribing and watching all of her great content. She is talented, beautiful, funny, and she has been doing this for a really long time. Her name's Kelsey Brianna J, and you should check her out. Today, I'm going to talk about my 5 best, 5 worst of high-end concealers, and then we're going to talk about my 5 best and 5 worst of low-end concealers in a part 2 of this video. So you want to stick around for that, and let's get started. As you can see, I have a lot of concealer, both drugstore and high-end, and my under eye is my biggest problem area. So I've spent a lot of time and a lot of money trying to find the best of the best out there in concealers. I haven't tried them all, but I've tried a lot. So stay tuned. We're going to get right into everything concealers. Okay, so we're going to start with the worst category. And at number 5 are the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away Liquid Concealer. This is a stunning package. I mean, just gorgeous. Charlotte knows how to package her things right. I got them in shade 10 and 11. For myself, I tend to not get a very light highlight shade under the eye. I tend not to enjoy that look. That's because I have deep set eyes that have quite a few lines, and some are fine lines, but some are more prominent lines under the eye. I am 44 years old, and in addition to having severe dark circles, I'm trying to combat those lines and wrinkles that are starting to form. So Miss Charlotte, I really wanted to love this concealer, and I'm still going to use it, don't get me wrong. The thing that I dislike about this is the coverage isn't what I need. It's too light for me as far as the coverage. You can still see my dark circles, and this is with my most high coverage concealer, which we'll get to in a little while. But the Magic Away didn't provide me the coverage that I needed, and it creases quite a bit. Now, if I do a really good job at patting out the concealer, maybe adding a little bit more, patting it out, taking my time with this concealer, then setting it perfectly, if all of those things go perfect, then this will be a nice concealer day. It won't last more than about 6 hours before it starts breaking apart, but it's nice when I take my time and I have the time to do it just so. But oftentimes either I don't have the time or I don't feel like taking that time just to do concealer. So that's why this is number 5. Number 4 is concealer by Bare Minerals. It's the Bare Skin concealer. I got this in dark to deep. It's a little deep for me, even though I tend not to like very light shades under my eyes. This is a little deep. I found that it was a little messy. The tube that it's in tends to get a lot of leakage around it every time you put the top back on. It sunk into the lines in a very unflattering way. It was almost like it was too emollient and too liquidy at the same time. It just wasn't good. It wasn't for me. So that was the Bare Minerals Bare Skin in Dark to Deep. In at number 3, now this one is a really popular one here on YouTube, and I don't know whether it's my eye type or what, but it is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I know, everybody loves this, but it doesn't work for me. I have it in the shade Medium Dark 1 Biscuit, and maybe it's too light. I think it might be a little bit too light, but the formula itself seemed like it wanted to fall into my fine lines quite a bit, and I couldn't make it work. So I didn't even bother with trying to get a better shade. I do think the better shade for me would be caramel. So if you're my complexion and you don't have the problem with as deep set of eyes or lots of fine lines, then caramel was probably the best color for you. But I got this in Biscuit, and I don't like this. Sorry, NARS. Now, this one it's an older one. It's the Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer. Creaseless, okay, whatever. There is no way this is ever going to work on anybody's under eye if they have any sort of lines or wrinkles. It is so thick. It's thick like spackle when you're trying to fill in a hole on your wall. It's thick like that. So it would just, in my mind, I thought, great, it'll fill in those fine lines. It doesn't work like that. All it did was kind of make the lines more evident and sink into them in a weird way. But I did get my money's worth out of this. I used quite a bit of this as an eyeshadow primer. Because it's so thick, it really worked well under the eyebrows to kind of clean those up, or to prepare your eyelids for eyeshadow. So I wouldn't recommend buying an expensive concealer just to prep your eyelids, but since I had already bought it, I found a use for it, and that was the Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer. And I apologize, I don't remember which shade this was because it's been so long that the shade name wore off, but I think it may have been deep or medium deep. I apologize, I don't know what shade that was. And the worst of the high-end concealers for me is the original Too Faced Born This Way Naturally Radiant Concealer. This concealer burned my under eye. At first I thought it was a fluke, maybe just like the first time. I use it again, still burn. I use it again, still burn. By like the 4th time, I'm like, no, makeup shouldn't hurt. So I stopped using this because there's something in here that burns my under eye. I got it in the shade Deep Tan. It was a good shade for me. It felt nice and comfortable once it stopped burning, because the burning didn't last, but for the first maybe 2-3 minutes after you put it on, it burned. And I don't have sensitive skin, so I don't know what's in here. This one is not the move. It's my worst one because it burned. Pain with makeup equals a no-go for me. All right, let's move into the best. My best concealers. In at number 5 is the Fenty Beauty Concealer. I have the shade 370. Now let me tell you, I cannot explain to you how many times I returned this, exchanged it, tried again, exchanged. This is probably the 4th try with this concealer until I finally got the color that works best for me and my in the way that I like to conceal my under eye. So 370 is the one that I chose. The reason it's in at number 5 is that it's good. It does take a little bit of finessing some days, which is why it's not higher on the list. But I like the coverage that it gives. It's a good high to medium coverage. Now, some people say it's very full. For me, I have very dark circles under the eye, so it was a high medium coverage for me. It was nice and creamy, but not too creamy, and I liked it. It's in at number 5, the Fenty Concealer in 370. Next on the list is the Josie Maran Vibrancy Concealer. This feels so nice under the eye. I had it in shade medium tan, and it's an excellent shade for me. I think because it tends to fall a little neutral, and sometimes that's hard to find, but I love this concealer. This is a good one for those days where I just need to run out the door and get something really quick, but I don't want to look like The Walking Dead. This is a real good grab and go concealer. I definitely would recommend this for someone who's not using a concealer for all day, 8, 10, 12-hour work days. But if you need it to last for a good 6, 7 hours and you don't want to fuss, this is a great concealer. I definitely would recommend this. The Josie Maran Vibrancy Concealer. And at number 3 is one that I don't hear talked about a lot on YouTube, but it is the Josie Maran, it is the Kevyn Aucoin concealers. These are so nice. I think the full name is the Supernatural Concealer. And I have these in the shades medium 06 and deep 07. Initially I got 07 because, like I said, I don't like a very bright under eye. But here's the thing that you need to know with the Kevyn Aucoin concealer. They tend to dry down to a much deeper shade. So I'll show you here. This is number 7 when it's fresh out of the tube. And here is number 6, fresh out of the tube. And I'm going to let those sit there for a few seconds while we talk. And then I'm going to go back in and put fresh shades so you'll see how much they change when they dry down. So I initially bought 07. It was great. It is the perfect consistency if you have lines and wrinkles under the eye. The coverage is a medium coverage. It's not my highest coverage concealer, but it is such a nice, smooth and smoothing concealer. Kevyn Aucoin got it so right. Tina, the Fancy Face, she recommended these and I went and got them, and it's just beautiful. I can't tell you how glad I am that I got that recommendation, because Kevyn Aucoin definitely did a good job with these. Okay, so let's take a look at these concealer shades. And so you see here how 07 looks after a minute, and that's how it looks initially. So you see the dry down is pretty significant. The shades change, or it dries down quite a bit after just 30 seconds. And here's number 6. And that's what it looked like initially, and that's the dry down. So be mindful of that when you're choosing your shade. It dries down probably to a whole shade darker. So just be mindful of that when you're choosing a shade in the Kevyn Aucoin concealer. So number 1 and number 2, quite frankly, it's a tie. It is a tie, but I like them for different reasons. It's a tie between my Cover FX Power Play Concealer and the new Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. So remember I told you I despise this original Too Faced one. They did a much better job with this Too Faced Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. These two are different, but they both give me they have such good attributes. In the Born This Way, I chose a butterscotch as my color, and in the Cover FX, I have N Deep 1. So let's talk about the Cover FX first. This concealer gives me all day minimal creasing, a beautiful high medium coverage, and the color is perfection. I think that's the thing I like about this the best. The color is absolutely perfect for my under eye and my preference. So I don't know if you can see that compared to the other two. It's almost somewhere in the middle. It is a fantastic shade for me. The coverage is good. It's actually great coverage. Not perfect, but great coverage. And it lasts a really long time. It's just great. I definitely would recommend the Cover FX Power Play Concealer, particularly if you have more fine lines and wrinkles. It plays well with wrinkles. It's really good for that. The reason it's tied with Born This Way is while this one's a little bit more hydrating and a little bit more comfortable, this Born This Way is a tad bit drier, but honey, coverage, and more coverage. And they have a lot of shades. I know a lot of people compare this to the Tarte Shape Tape. I didn't like that concealer. I returned it because I could never find the perfect shade for me. A lot of people in my complexion would get tan sand. That was the only choice you had, was tan sand. But tan sand was too light for my deep set wrinkled under eye. It would just emphasize and bring more attention to that area. So I just couldn't make that one work. And the next one in the shade was too dark. So I never enjoyed that one. This is really great coverage, great staying power. It's nice and creamy under the eye, not too drying, but it's a little bit more drying than the Cover FX. And so for that reason, I couldn't choose between the two. It just depends on what kind of day I'm having, what I'm going to be doing. They both last all day long. And when I say all day long, I mean like 10 hours all day long. I'm a physical therapist. I work long hours when I work, and I need something that lasts and I don't have to fuss with it. I'm going to have wrinkles under my eye. I'm going to have lines. I have the severe dark circles. So I'm not going to be able to cancel them out completely. But this comes really close to canceling them out really well. This is a very close second, but this one feels a little bit more comfortable. So it's a tie in first place between Too Faced Born This Way Concealer in Butterscotch and Cover FX Power Play Concealer in N Deep 1. Thank you so much. I'll be doing another one of these for drugstore concealers. I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Have a good day. Bye-bye.